right, thanks everyone for joining today. We are here with Drew Davenport, and we're going to be talking about some of the interesting partner things. So I'm Jason Collier. I'm one of the founders here at Scale Computing and kind of our chief evangelist. And Drew, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and your company?
Sure, yeah. My name is Drew Davenport. I'm with PC Care is the name of our company, and we're a managed service provider and IT project provider for a lot of our customers in the Houston, Texas area. We've been doing it a long time, 25 plus years. We started off as a little small, computer builder, PC repair shop, and have come a long way since then. And yeah, we love technology. I'm VP of Sales here at PC Care. I'm formerly technical. The longer I am not technical, the longer I'm in sales, the less technical I become. My old buddies in operations tell me, but I think they're crazy.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. That was, yeah, I used to be the CTO at Scale Computing, and I determined that job required way too much actual work. Uh, so I turned that over to our chief architect. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, based on that fun tech and computer stuff. So Drew, when did you get your first computer and what was it?
Oh man, I don't know how old I was because I was very young, and I have two older brothers. And dad came home. Dad always loved technology. And he came home with something, and I didn't even know this was a thing. But when they opened it, it was a Tandy 3000. And I think it didn't even have a hard drive. It had, I think, two floppy drives in it. Maybe they were both 5 1/4 or one of each or 3 1/2 or something. But I didn't know what it was or anything about it. But my brothers were both excited, and my dad was probably the most excited. And I got to watch them play on it a lot. I never really got to touch it, but they did some kind of flight little 2D terrible little game. But it was very exciting at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the dandy tandy. Who can forget, right?
Yeah.
the I think I got started on Trash 80, so the original old tandy, right? TRS 80s. Good times there on that. So you mentioned that you guys are an MSP partner, and I really kind of wanted to go. So what kind of scale partner are you? Are you a reseller or an MSP? And
Mhm.
how is your kind of your um, I guess life with scale been as a company?
Okay, so we originally started off just as a reseller because it made sense for some of our customers who we were just struggling with uh, the traditional 321 model, and it just didn't make sense. A lot of our IT directors were just not wanting to have to deal with all the headaches of storage and those kind of things, and so we got into hyperconverged through some other vendors, but price point and some challenges there just weren't good. So we were looking around and did some demos with Scale and just really enjoyed it. So we started on the reseller side, but we're also a managed service provider for some of our other customers, and it just made sense for especially the managed service customers that we have that are just like single node, maybe just a handful of VMs that can run on a single node and then replicate those VMs out to another cluster. So the managed service model works for some, and of course reseller works for a lot of the more enterprise level customers.
And what was it really that kind of drove you to become a scale partner in the first place?
Several reasons. Gosh, where to start? So one of the biggest challenges that we had was we were dealing with some of the other names that you've heard in the industry, and we we had to compete with the direct team. And so what would happen is we'd put in all the work with our customers. We'd set up the meetings. We'd register the deal, go through the process, convince them on why they needed to go to a hyperconverged model instead of that traditional one, and put in all the time, engineer the quotes, run the live optics or DPACs as they called them at that time, and get them the quotes, and then they would just call their direct team or go on wherever.com and build out the same thing and get it for a few $1,000s cheaper, and then call us and say, hey, I'm going to buy the equipment elsewhere, but will you guys still help me install it? And it was horrible. So you'd have to either cut all your margin out of it to win the sale, or uh, just only get the labor. And now, anyway, there just wasn't any margin in that.
Right.
And this is just one reason. Of course, we like the technology as well, which I'll talk about here in a second. But um, scale being channel only or partner only,
Hmm.
however you want to say it, um, was nice for us because we could make a margin on the equipment while we were putting in the work, and that was nice. We just didn't have to compete with Scale or CDW.com or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
On the technology side, we've installed a few of the other big names, and they've got all these tweaks that you can make. I mean, thousands upon thousands of nerd knobs
Yeah.
that you can adjust. Maybe your hot data, how much you want to go on your SSD or your flash, and how much you want to go on your spinning, and just tons and tons of other adjustments. But what we found at the end of the day is that most network admins or IT directors, they just didn't care about that. They didn't
Right.
have time to mess with that.
Right.
They just wanted a few things to do, and they wanted most of the rest of those things not to have to worry about.
Yeah.
And so when we started installing Scale, you can get down in there and make tons of those adjustments if you want to, but so many of them are just automatically done, and you just set it. Say your hot storage, you just, how hot do you want it to be? You
Yep.
set it between 1 and 11 on the Scale interface, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And that fit most of our customers. Most of the IT directors and network admins that we know just didn't want all that extra complicated stuff. So that was one reason why we like the technology. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's one of
yeah, there's
those
probably
things.
more, but yeah, that's probably a long enough answer for now, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like 90, 95% of the people use 5% of the features, kind of thing.
Yes.
And yeah, the interesting thing about Scale is, one of the things, like one of our core design tenets was always around, simplicity. And we actually, the point is, like, we put a ton of automation in to basically automate the fine tuning of those things, but it all happens under the hood, and you don't need all the nerd knobs, right? Yeah, that's good. And then I also like, kind of what you were mentioning about the margin. One of the things that I was thinking is, usually there are two strategies that most vendors have, right? You've got either direct or channel, and then you've also got then the hybrid where they'll have a direct team and a channel team. And one of my sales friends always called that. He's like, basically, that's the half pregnant model. And the reality is, you can't be half pregnant. You either are or you're not, right? So it's either you're channel
Yes,
friendly or you're not. And
for sure.
we see that a lot. That's one of the reasons why we from the beginning, I mean, realized that there's so much value that comes out of the channel, and we didn't want to be a direct company. So channel was really the kind of the direction that we wanted to go with that. Um, you know, uh, so what has been your experience working with the team here at Scale?
Really enjoyed the team. So I deal most with the sales side of the team, obviously, but our engineers here at our shop have also dealt with the technical side. So I'll speak to that very quickly. Um, our VP Ops has been involved with the deployments. It's certainly the first few as our tech team was figuring it out, and he has just said over and over again how easy it is to get in touch with Scale support. He said 90, maybe 95% of the time when we need to call in during a deployment or post deployment, the person, the live technician that answers the phone, I mean, there's no, press
Hmm.
one or, get a ticket number and get transferred to somebody else and wait. A live person answers the phone and fixes the issue. And we're not calling in for simple issues. We know what we're doing. We're calling in for fairly complex issues, and that live technician that answers the phone fixes the problem within minutes typically,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. And the first few times it happened, we thought, wow, we must be getting lucky. But after almost every time we call in that happens, we say, great, their support is just on top of things. So that's been great. Nothing but positive things to say about that. As far as the team, the channel side, it's just fantastic. They know what they're talking about technically. When I do have a struggle, or some odds and ends, like we've had some dark site issues where we need a cluster and we need to get updates to it, but it can't be connected to the internet for security reasons. There's always a quick answer for that, and the pricing,
Hmm.
of course, is very friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. And that's, it comes down to tech support is we consider tech support for scale to be as much a part of the product as the tin, silicon, and software that we ship on top
Yes.
of it. And, you know, a lot of this stems from, kind of me and the rest of the founding crew comes from our our concerns and struggles when we were buying vendor equipment, right? And
Yeah.
and tech support was always one of those number one things that would basically light my fuse pretty much every time. And it always seemed to be this, the endless finger pointing, between vendors on, how to,
Yes.
go about fixing issues. It's like, oh, it's not us, it's them. It's not us, it's them. It's not us, it's them.
Hmm.
So get the nice thing about hyper converged is the fact that you do get, it's kind of, you got one back to pat and one throat to choke, when things go wrong. And
Absolutely.
it's but that's I mean really helped us. And I mean we've pretty much continuously since we've launched the product had a net promoter score of like in the 90s. So really really high customer sat ratings. But a lot of it comes from I guess more really kind of our attitude on the way that should be dealt with. um,
Hmm.
so how have your customers responded to, I guess, scale computing's kind of the product set? The variety of one, kind of the features, and also the different kind of lines of product that you've seen out there.
Sure. Very positively, just overall, very positive response to everything. It's, how it is, though. Sometimes no feedback is the best feedback, right? Most of them, you get it installed, and within the first couple of weeks, maybe you get a few questions, or they call and they say, oh, hey, this works this way, or this works that way. And then you just hear nothing, and we take that as a compliment. Used to in our younger days, we would say, man, we would needed a few more pats on the back for how amazing this is, but they just don't call. And that is probably the biggest compliment we can give to the product, just because once they know it, it's quiet, it runs smooth, you never have to worry about it. On the rare occasion that something does happen, we can call support for them, or they can call support and get it fixed very, very quickly. It scales nicely, no pun intended, of course, there. But when they need to add more, would they just call us up and say, hey, we're going to drop in these many more VMs. We think we need probably another node. And, we drop it in, and it adjusts the VMs across that additional node, and everything's good to go. And then we don't hear anything again, which
Yeah.
is kind of what we want.
Yep. Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
great. So do you have any particular success stories with a customer and basically the HC3 deployments that you can share with us?
Sure. We have, just by the nature of our business, we've been in our particular area of the world for a while, and a lot of the city governments have come to find out. The municipalities, the city halls, the police departments, those kind of things. We're kind of a trusted name where we are, and so. Some of the city halls need a cluster. Others might just need a single node because they're smaller municipalities. But the concern here with us being on the Gulf Coast is always hurricanes.
Right.
And so anytime we're pitching a solution, we're not just pitching, uh, some kind of data center solution for their hardware to run. There's also a big concern, especially with police and EMS and fire and city government, that they can still function during a hurricane because they can't leave. They need to stay.
Hmm.
And the all of them that we've worked for in some capacity over the past couple of years, we have gotten switched over to some kind of a scale, whether it's single node or cluster. And the understanding there is that they can replicate their VMs to our cluster, that we have in a data center in Austin. And so instead of having to sell them this enterprise backup solution or two clusters, and then they're paying rent in some data center somewhere else, we're able to, for a much lower cost, let them replicate those VMs to our cluster.
Right.
We get to make some margin as well on that, which is wonderful. And we get to sell them this solution that doesn't include just a giant expense for an enterprise
Right.
backup, virtual standby, or whatever term you use to describe that. And it's just wonderful.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, that's a good one. I know we've come with a number of success stories around that. I mean, the hurricanes, that have been hitting, the Gulf Coast and also in the Caribbean. We've got a customer down there as well that was able to replicate offshore and was able to kind of save their data and business when kind of the hurricanes came ripping through there.
Yeah.
Um, So, Drew, has being part of the scale computing partner community met your expectations?
Yeah, it definitely has. And I know this may sound almost like I'm pandering here or something, but it's not only met him, it's really exceeded him, and I'm genuinely saying that. When we first got into our partnership with Scale, we just kind of thought, um, let's try this out. Maybe this node will work for customer X or whatever. But as we got into it and just got to see the technology and worked and had these great relationships, we just came to realize that it was just so much more than we ever thought it was going to be. It's not just this one little thing that we also do here at our company. It really is a giant part of what we do on technology when people need data center, all the way down just a small server needs. And yeah, it has definitely met and exceeded our expectations going into it.
Fantastic. So, has working with Scale helped increase your already good reputation as a trusted partner to the clients?
Yes, indeed it has. We have come into several people, whether enterprise level or just single node level, and have told them the benefits of it, and have just not failed to deliver, or have continued to deliver, I should
Hmm.
say, with all these people. We come in, we say, look, we're going to make your life easier. We're going to take away all this extra nerd knobs and stuff that you don't have to worry about, and you can snapshot your VMs easily. You can do all these things. And they say, yeah, sure, I've heard that before. And then we come in, we put in the solution, and afterwards they say, boy, you guys weren't kidding, this stuff is great. The interface works seamlessly, and it just works like you said it would, because that's always the deal, right? The sales guy always comes in and tells you it's going to work great, and then they hide all the things, the warts and things, and that's just not been the case. And so, yeah, it definitely has helped our reputation.
Excellent. Um, One thing I actually kind of want to go back on this real quick, Drew.
Sure.
Basically, in talking about basically, you started out as a reseller, but then kind of that pushed you more and more kind of into MSP territory, and you'd also mentioned the kind of the margin components as well, and how that's helped. So during that transition, like no, not really transition, but being still a reseller in MSP, can you kind of describe what your MSP business looks like and how those margins have helped you out versus some of the other solutions you've had to offer?
Sure. Um, so on the MSP side of things, we had some existing managed service customers who had some aging server equipment and those kind of things. And most of our MSP customers are on the smaller side, right? They're not that enterprise level. So by smaller side, I mean 10 to 50, 60 users is our average size managed service customer. And so upfront expense is a big concern for that size customer, right? And so when Scale's managed service model came along, or really when we became aware of the managed service model, it was immediately, there were a few customers where I had already gone and pitched either a single node or a cluster to them, and they had said, man, I don't disagree with you, but price is driving factor here, right? We know it's great technology; it would probably work wonderfully for us, but we're SMB. We just can't drop that kind of money every 5 years on infrastructure. So I went back, and in fact, a job that we only recently finished up, I went back, I pulled the uh, the same quote that I had pitched a year ago, and I just ran it through the MSP model pricing, and the upfront cost was, uh, boy, maybe 30 or 40% of what the original upfront cost was that I had pitched a year ago. And then this customer, they're paying us X per month. And so I took it back to Kristen and I said, okay, Kristen, here's the same quote, but it's done in a managed service model, and it'll cost half up front, and your monthly bill that you're already paying with us is going to go up by a few $100s instead. And she said, oh yeah, let me take this to the COO and see what he says. And it was approved. We got it installed uh, maybe a month ago, and there's just been nothing but great feedback on that.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, that's I mean, really one of the driving factors for us, kind of releasing that pricing model is like, especially if you have a business that is more of an OpEx driven business, right, where your revenue comes in as like recurring monthly stuff, it gets really hard to drop a big capex expenditure, right?
For sure.
So really, I mean, when you think about it, it's nothing more than basically kind of basically a financial model that meets basically what the business model is.
Hmm.
So it's great to see here, the real, kind of the true Hollywood story of how that's playing out on the street, right? Um,
Absolutely.
that's great. That's great. Um, the So overall, has basically working with scale met your business expectations that you've had within the organization?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We've gotten great partnerships with some key people there at Scale. We not only have done these installations, but we've got with our own customers, but we've also gotten some leads through the Scale website. Maybe somebody has come across Scale, and our Scale rep will take a look at you know the area, and
Hmm.
they'll call me and they'll say, hey, we've got an interested customer, they're in your area, and this is a customer that maybe I've been trying to get to, or maybe I just wasn't aware of this customer in our area. It's a large customer base here in Houston, but have actually landed some new customers through our good relationship with Scale, where they gave us a lead. We went in, we sold them a cluster, and then the next time they needed something, maybe they needed some switching or some other stuff, I get a call from them. So uh, that's just a whole nother benefit. Yeah, it's definitely met expectations and exceeded them.
Well, great. I mean, and the reality is, what? Hey, it's a partner program for a reason, right? Partnerships are two ways. There's never a one sided partnership that's ever successful. So, that's just kind of the basic human nature, and it's interesting that there are a lot of channel partner programs that really are less than a partnership, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, yeah, that's definitely one of those areas we look to strive for. Um, so I guess kind of to finish this out here, is there any feedback or advice from you that you would have for scale? Yet again, part of a partnership, right? is uh,
yeah.
hey, we're always looking for ways to improve, ways to basically make things better and just better overall experiences.
Sure. Um, Specific feedback as far as the technology and stuff, that's probably beyond my pay grade, as they say. So on the technology, no, I'll just feedback. I would say I'm just really looking forward to some events and some marketing opportunities. I've talked with my reps over there at Scale, and you guys, and we know there is a focus on marketing right now, and some event-based type of things, and that's something my company is getting more and more involved in. And so I'm just looking forward to spending some time with you guys at some different events, and Yeah, that's really it for me for feedback. Just looking forward to more opportunity.
Well, great, thanks. And one of our kind of cores is definitely keeping those partnerships strong. So we'll definitely we'll continuously be reaching out and looking for additional feedback and ways in which we can make these partnerships successful for
Great.
both of our ventures, right? So, um, well, Drew, thanks so much. Thanks so much for your time today. Really, really do appreciate it. And yeah, the look forward to continuing to have a very strong business together. And thank you for coming on too. I mean, this is all stuff that's going to help other partners that are out there as well, and ways in which they can hopefully make their business successful and get kind of get some advice from somebody who's been kind of in the business and selling for successfully for quite some time. So thanks
Great.
again. Really appreciate having you on.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.